Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Zentangle Project Pack series. This lesson is part of Project Pack number 17. My name is Molly, and I am so excited to be able to start us off on this series. I love this project pack. I think I say that every time, but I'm actually really excited about this one. It's just really come together and it evolved, and I feel like the meaning behind it and the tools and all that stuff has really just been a fun adventure for us here at Zentangle. We are going to be using the materials from our Project Pack 17 envelopes. Our project packs are available at zentangle.com and from some of our certified Zentangle teachers. We do recommend watching the Project Pack number 17 introduction video first. There's a lot of good information there, and it will be helpful for you before you're starting on this little journey. Because this particular project pack relies heavily on the materials in the project pack envelopes, we have actually come up with an alternate way to follow along for those of you that were not able to get the project pack for some way or another. And all of that information is in our introductory video. So if that's the route you're going, I do recommend going back and checking that out too, because it's a fun way to do it regardless. All right, we're here, we're ready to go. And there is a little bit of order to this series. Some of our project packs, you can kind of watch any of the videos. But this one really, especially the first 6 videos, we want you to do them sequentially. So we definitely recommend starting today and then following along in order from there. So I have my project pack number 17. Envelope right here, and I got an envelope full of 3Z tiles, which is really exciting. And then I have some tools, which I've already taken out of the package for you. So we're excited to start using these new microns, these gray microns that have come out a few months ago. 2 different gray tones, which will be fun to use for some details. We have a black micron in here too, 301s. So it's a cool gray, a lighter cool gray, and then a black. And then I have 2 different pastel chalk pencils. What's kind of fun is you all out there who have a project pack might have different colors than I have here, and that was purposefully done so that everybody kind of got random colors. So I have a reddish color here and a bluish purple color, but you may have 2 totally different colors. And for those of you without a project pack, just grab 2 different colored pencils or do the whole thing in black and white. Either way works. And then I have my different tortillones to work with my graphite, my white charcoal, and the colored chalk pencils. So lots of good stuff here for tools. And then most importantly, I have a bunch of 3Z tiles here. And you should have 3 different designs. Maybe you've already figured that out, but I want you to take out all your pre-strung tiles you have. And I want you to figure out which designs match up with each other. And I want you to put them in 3 piles, okay? There are 6 total different designs that we carry here. And so you only have 3 of them. And these are the 6 different ones that we do have that potentially could be in your pack. And this is what's going to be fun about this project pack is that everybody's going to be working with something a little different. So our results, when we share them with each other, won't be exactly the same. So I'm kind of excited about this. So this is an example of all the potential designs you might have. So you would have any 3 of these. And what we're going to do is we're going to slowly kind of chip away at filling in the spaces on your tiles, and we'll be we'll give you clear instructions hopefully on how to go about doing that. So like I said, you should have just 3 of these 6, and most of these are going to make a lot of sense how they're laid out. However, there's 2 of them I'm going to modify, and I'm going to show you that right now. So this one right here makes a lot of sense. We don't have to do anything to it. This one is fine. So if those are the ones you have. This one we're not modifying. This one's all set. So if you have either of these 2, pull them out. And I'm just going to sort of add some string lines to them. So I'm going to start with this one right here. If you happen to have this tile right here, we're going to just add a couple of pencil lines to this tile. If you don't have this tile, do not worry about it. So I am going to hold the tile like so. So you can just arrange yours like that. Okay. And on the left side right here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a smaller space here just to break our tile because there's too much space going on here. So this string line right here, I want you to just go over it with your pencil. And then I want to take the top of that line and just carry it down to where this hits the edge of the tile. Does that make sense? So just tracing over that string line there and then bringing it down to this point right there. I'm going to turn my 3Z tile like so. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing here. I'm going to start with this string line here. I'm going to go over it with my pencil. And then I'm just going to carry it down right there. This will all make sense in a little while. Turn my tile one more time. Trace over this string line. And then carry it down right over there. Again, if you don't have this particular string, don't worry about it. We're just making sure that everybody following along knows knows what to do. Does that make sense? I'll let you look at it for one more second. And then what I'd like you to do, and you can of course pause the video to do this, I want you to do this to all 6 of your tiles that look like this. All right, so I have gone ahead and I have 6 of those prepared just like so. So you can see I have a nice graphite line over that original string. And really what I'm trying to do is create a space on the corners that I can work with. And this will all make sense later. So again, it's just tracing over that first string line and then carrying it down to that one corner. And if that didn't make sense to you, just go back and watch it again. It's so easy with these videos to watch it over and over again. So I'm going to take that stack of 6 tiles and I'm keep them all together. And if you don't have that string, you don't even have to worry about that. And then this is the other string that I just wanted to go over to make sure people knew where they were going to be working. This one, I don't have to create new string lines, but I kind of just have to show you where you want to work. So again, we want to create these corner spaces. So on this one right here, it's a beautiful, fun string. I am going to trace over this space to create my string line right there. And that's going to be the space I'll work in on this tile. This one's a little more obvious over here, but you could trace it if you really need to. This is that corner space. And then over here, it's this space right here. All this space. We're ignoring that little loop there. So I'll let you check that out. And again, you're going to want to go to all 6 of your tiles that have this same string, if you happen to have this string, and you might not, but if you do, we're going to go to all 6 of those and repeat that same thing so that when we go to tangle, it's really obvious which space we're going to be working in. Identify the corners. And just take your time with this. No need to rush. What's great about videos is you can always pause them. You can go back. Do that. So I'm going to take all 6 of those tiles, stack those up, and put those aside. Okay, so I think we have all our housekeeping done and we're getting closer to being ready to begin with our drawing here. So as I said, you will have 3 different stacks here of pre-strung tiles. And these are the 3 stacks that I have in front of me. Yours might be different. We offer 6 different ones, but we've chosen 3 per project pack. So you should have 3 different designs in front of you. And I think for this particular project, it would be nice to just have those 3 stacks sort of neatly put at the top of your drawing space. So maybe push all 3 stacks up there. And then I want you to choose just one of those stacks that we're going to work with today. So I'm going to choose this particular stack here, and I'm going to be playing around with those. But I actually only need 1 tile to begin. So you can put the rest of those 3Z tiles that look exactly like that just aside, and we're going to be revisiting those toward the end of this lesson. So this is the piece that I'm going to be working on, and I'll reference all of the strings to help you out for those people that are working on a different string, but it should all make sense as we go along. So again, you should have just 1 pre-strung tile in front of you right now. And then, of course, the tools that we spoke of earlier, have those close by, so make sure you have those. And then I invite you now to get a little comfortable in your chair, maybe adjust your sits bones or whatever it is that feels right for you. And now that we have our drawing space organized and we have maybe our bodies in a more comfortable position, I invite you to take a moment for the first step in the Zentangle method, and that's gratitude and appreciation. And I invite you to either find a focal point in the space you're in, or maybe if you feel comfortable, gently close your eyes and give yourself a moment to first find your breath, maybe slow down, take note of the breath you take in and the breath that goes out. And bring your attention to something in your world you feel grateful for at this very moment. Maybe it's the time you have right now to be creating. Maybe it's the tools you have to create with. Or maybe it's the energy you feel from a friend or loved one. Or maybe it's something totally different. I invite you now to return back to your breath. Remember that at any point in time, your breath is there to offer a little bit of support, energy, maybe a little bit of stress relieving breath, whatever it is you need. Just remember it's there for the taking. I invite you now to maybe gently open your eyes or bring your focus back to your work surface here, and you'll find all your tools that you're working with and your beautiful pre-strung 3Z tile. If you are taking the sort of alternate route with the string that Maria created in the introductory video, you can have that in front of you now too. It has all those beautiful spaces. And what I want you to do with that is I want you to choose one of those spaces, just like we're going to choose one of these corner spaces and create the same tangle that we're creating. And although you're taking a bit of a different approach, you can still take the information and the lesson and apply it to your surface. That's a little bit different. So I'm kind of excited about those projects too. That's going to be really exciting. So we're going to begin here with a real basic tangle, but a favorite of mine, and that tangle is called tipple. And tipple is basically just a series of orbs. And what we're going to do is we're going to be working just the corners today. So just these spaces that fit nicely onto the corners of these triangles. So again, if you had one of the tiles that looks like this, I want you to just be filling in this space or just in this space or this space. Maybe you start with one of these funky spaces. That's probably a good place to put tipple because it'll fit really nicely. And again, we're going to ignore those loops. And don't worry, they're going to fade away in the background. If you had a space like this, you're going to fill these little pie shapes right here. And again, we're just going to fill one at a time. So don't jump ahead. Just pick one and we're going to fill just one space because I'm going to offer different tangles for each one. This beautiful one, it would be just that diamond space right here. And let's see here, the other funky one we had, you're going to fill just this corner space that we created with the graphite. So I'm going to begin with my black micron pen here. And I'm going to choose just one corner space on my 3Z tile. And I'm going to begin up here at the top, but you could begin in the middle or anywhere you'd like. I'm thinking I'm going to kind of trickle down here, and I'm just going to start by filling it with these orb shapes that they don't have to be exactly all the same size. And I'm really thoughtfully creating each of these circular shapes and smushing them together and kind of carefully fitting them in the bounds of my string, just for fun this time. Tipple is all about orbs, and a lot of times in Zentangle we refer to circular shapes as orbs, and because that kind of makes it feel less like specific or perfect, and orbs can be a little bit wonky or I guess have some character to them, so we don't have to worry about them being perfect circles. In fact, they have a little character to them. And as you can see, I'm filling in the interstices as I go along. I kind of like to do it that way. Some people like to put all their orbs in and then go back and fill those spaces, but that's up to you. That's what's so great about this process is it becomes yours. So I will offer to you different ways to create something, but take from it what you want and then make it yours. Remember to breathe. Take your time. Just put a big one in there. If you make them too tiny, you might be here for a really long time. But some people like the way that the really tiny orbs look, and that's fine too. Turning your tile as you're working, taking your time, and breathing. I think that the little inking in you do is nice. It kind of makes the orbs pop a little bit more. When I'm drawing my tipple orbs, I really like to make sure that I go fully circular and almost overlap where I started, so you get this nice sort of seal, because otherwise sometimes you can have an open circle. And I think that it's almost like I redraw the circle a little bit. Maybe I go all the way around again, but it creates a more sculpted orb. Taking your time. Almost as if you only have to worry about that one orb you're drawing. So once you have all your tipples laid out and you've kind of carefully filled in the little interstices, I'm going to pick up my light gray pen. And as I said, there's 2 gray pens in this project pack, and they're the pen caps, as you can see, one's a darker gray and one's a lighter gray. So for now, we're just going to refer to them as dark gray and light gray. So I have the light gray pen in front of me right now, and I'm going to be just going back into all these orbs, and I'm just creating an inner aura. Very subtle, but when I get halfway done, let's look at it and see what a nice little detail like this does to a pattern. It creates some depth and maybe texture. But that's what I'm enjoying about these gray pens is you kind of can go back in and add little tiny details that aren't like necessarily so bold, but subtle and interesting. Maybe on some of those smaller ones, you just put a little dot. Don't have to be perfect. So let's see, we have about half of them done right now. So take a look. Yeah, you start to see this like interesting detail that makes the pattern just look different enough. And if you sort of register this sort of technique, you could apply it to other tangles by adding these little textures to the original pattern. Sometimes you have to look a couple times to see if you got them all. Ooh, very cool. I love that. So I'm going to cap my light gray pen here, and I think I'm going to add a little bit of color to this. Since the project we're doing is kaleidoscope, and we're sort of talking about kaleidoscope on many levels, sort of the idea of this sort of very beautiful, ever-changing, geometric reflection of color and pattern, and then also this idea of kaleidoscope as a metaphor for sort of our lives. And I love to play around with stuff like that. But I think one thing that I do think of when I think of kaleidoscopes is surely color. And so we're going to be adding bits of color. And I don't think we have to be like coloring them in. In fact, I like the way of adding them sort of in a nuanced kind of way. So here, I'm just going to take, I have a blue pastel chalk pencil, but you might have different colors. So whatever color you have, pick one. And I'm just going to begin by putting down some of this pastel chalk just around the edges of this tipple. And I'm putting it down pretty heavy-handed because I want it to be really intense near the edges and then have it fade toward the middle. With any of these shading sort of techniques we show you, there's always another way to do it. So if you want to just watch and then go back in and do it, be like, oh, I like that way, that's cool, but maybe I'll try this way instead. And or maybe you try it this way first and then you modify it, or it triggers another idea. I'm taking my tortillon now, and you have tortillons that are should be specific to the color, so you don't muddy up the bold color. So this is the one I'm using for my blues. And sometimes they all ended up getting muddied, but I'm just gently kind of inviting the pigment into the paper and leaving that middle space white for now. Oh, that's so pretty. Beautiful, beautiful color. So that's our tipple. I think I'm going to leave it just at that, okay? So now I am ready to move on to my next tangle. We're going to do another pretty basic tangle, offer maybe a little detail to it, but we're going to stick with the basics. So I'm going to move on to this corner over here. And what I'd like you to do when you're working on these 3Z tiles is kind of note the orientation here. So I know it doesn't look like it matters, but we're going to always have the tipple here on the left, and then I'm going to put my next tangle here on the right. Of course, when you're working on it, it doesn't matter, but when you return it back to its original space for referencing our directions, we'll keep the tipple here on the left. Okay, so I'm going to use my dark gray pen here. So I have the light gray right next to it just for reference. So again, I'm going to be picking up the dark gray pen. And you know what? If you end up picking up the wrong pen, just keep going with it, whatever that wrong pen is, and just be consistent with it, and you'll be fine. And sometimes if it pops in, you can always figure out some sort of a solution. So I'm not too worried about all that stuff. So we're going to begin a tangle here called hollabah. And hollabah is all about these beautiful boards that kind of stretch from one section, one side to another of our section. And I'm going to create one. There are two parallel lines. And then I'm going to turn my tile and create a second one that falls behind that first one. And really, that's the only trick with hollabah, is sort of creating these series of parallel lines or boards, and then creating more that stretch from sort of random sides. And then your only kind of rule of thumb, I guess, is that you want them all to fall behind the previous ones. So it almost becomes like a little game. I like hollabah because it's very formulaic, yet it presents itself as almost chaos in this very graceful way, I think. All right. Now I'm going to cap my dark gray pen, and I'm going to pick up my light gray pen, and I'm going to add a detail to my hollabah. Just putting a light gray, a stripe right through the middle. Again, adding more detail with these gray pens, just sort of seeing what kind of depth we can create. What's fun about this gray pen is it almost presents itself as a pencil. It kind of has a pencil color to it, to me. So yet when you shade over it, it doesn't go anywhere. So it's kind of a fun, there's fun stuff you can do with it. Let's see here, a couple more. That's all of them. So that looks kind of cool as it is, but let's add a little bit of shading, see what we can do here. So I'm going to start with my graphite pencil on this hollabah. And I think I'm first going to sort of locate some of these bands that seem to be closer to the top, meaning they don't have much interrupting them. So this one looks like one of the ones that's like up top. I'm just going to put a real subtle shadow there. Maybe this one doesn't look like it has much. Maybe this one and this one. Yeah, that's good. So that way you kind of get this depth of the other ones falling behind it. And then I'm just going to put some graphite here right at the tip. I'm going to do it kind of intense. Then maybe fade it up, but I'm going to locate my tortillon that I use for my graphite and kind of buff that out. And then very gently, I don't have to do much to these little, trying to keep that band unshaded for fun. So it just looks like a dark shadow. And now I think instead of doing all graphite, but you could keep it so it's just all graphite, and that's up to you. I think I'm going to introduce a little bit of color here. So the second color pencil I have is this this red sanguine color. Again, you have different colors, so work with what you have. And I'm going to just add a little bit of color here to the outside. And then use my red tortillon. Just take your time doing this kind of stuff because you want to focus on the materials you're using. You don't want to go fast and just mistakenly pick up the wrong. And if it does happen, that's okay. But there's no rush here. Take your time, pause, look at each material as you work with it. And I actually like the way this red looks, but for fun, I'm gonna play with a little bit of this blue in here. I'm just gonna add a little tiny bit up in this corner here just to see what happens. Yeah, it's a little silly, but I don't know, kind of fun to just get a little funky here. So you could have left it all red if you wanted to. I just got a little funky here. I like to leave a little bit undone too. See what happens, almost like just little bits of color. Okay, we're doing pretty good here. So as we said, I'm going back to my sort of base area, my starting point here, and I have my tipple on the left, and now I have my hollabah that's going to live on the right here. And now I'm going to be working up on this last space, and I'm going to pick up my black pen again, and I'm going to work right here. And I'm going to do a tangle we call, actually, I don't know, it's sort of like braise and it's sort of like a striping. So it's kind of these two tangles. It's braising and striping together. So, um, but it's a nice drama tangle, and I feel like it's going to sort of be a nice contrast to these two tangles that have some texture in them and layering in them. And this is going to be just bold and graphic. So I like this idea of adding this in now. So on this particular tile, I'm going to be working these nice bold stripes in this space right here. If you have a tile that has more of like a diamond shape here, you're just going to be working your striping in this diamond space right here. And then if you have one of these like kind of funky tiles here, if you have, this one has one space as a little diamond one, but if you have one of these funky spaces left, this will be kind of fun to get a little creative, but your stripes will kind of fill these spaces a little different, and you'll have some interesting shading opportunities there. So that'll be cool. And then, of course, this one's pretty self-explanatory. So hopefully we can all following along and do this tangle. So again, yeah, I would say this is a lot more similar to braise. Braise is a tangle, is a anagram, I think. If you jumble up the letters, it spells zebra. So it's all about sort of like stripes. So if you want to watch for a minute and then follow along after, I'm going to create a series of arced stripes about this fat. And I'm going to put a little aura on either side here. Everybody has sort of a different way they like to create stripes. I'm not measuring out exactly where these stripes go, the distance in between them. I think it's okay if they're a little bit inconsistent, shall we say. I think it works out fine. And I'm actually just carefully inking in this center area. And we just have O1 pens here. If you have a fatter pen and you want to switch out and fill in the spaces with that fatter pen, you can definitely do that. But I learned it's sort of like the meditation of just filling those spaces. So either way works. I'm going to put a little bit of space here, and I'm going to create my next stripe. Nice arced line, and then a nice thin aura, and then a fatter space here, just mimicking that arc, and then another aura. Perhaps turning your tile to a way that it's more comfortable for you. Just sort of getting into the zone of how the ink kind of falls on the paper. Don't have to press too hard. Just get a little rhythm. Back and forth. Nice bold tangle. This is going to really complement those other tangles. Just taking your time. If you're filling the spaces on the bigger piece, the kind of alternative project that we had invited folks without project packs to do, your spaces are similar to these, so you really should have had not too much trouble to find a space on your beautiful string to put some braise. All right. It's like I have about a little more space to add one, and your spacing might be different, so don't worry about that. I don't have an exact, looks like I'm just gonna fit a little button here, so. And you know what? If your stripes are different sizes, one fat, one string, thin, that's okay too. Don't worry about it. It's I think what you're trying to get out of this tangle is get that sort of bold ink and that contrast with the white space. So you have this like nice sort of yin and yang kind of thing going on. All right, so let's go take it back to our base here. So we have our tipple, our hollabah, and our braise at the top. And whenever you do any inking in, you want to make sure that your tile is not damp or moist when you go to shade, because that can sometimes cause sort of when you can sort of smear a little bit. But mine seems to be okay. So I am going to go in with my graphite pencil, and I'm going to use the point of my graphite towards the edge here, and I'm going to put a nice dark bit of graphite on the edge and then just kind of easing it up toward the middle a little bit. Again, a nice dark bit, and then easing it as I go towards the middle. And then grabbing your tortillon that is for your graphite, and just easing that graphite towards the middle. And sort of allowing yourself this really cool highlight in the middle. See, that's kind of cool. Almost glows, all right? I love to get it really dark near the edges. And I'm not going to add any color to this striping because I think it's kind of cool with just the black and white next to the things of color. So let's get our 3Z back to sort of that um, starting point where we talked about we had our tipple on the left, hollabah on the right, and striping on the top. Now, what I invite you guys to do for your homework is I want you to create 6 more of these. And luckily, I've already done that. Actually, I mean 5 of them, so you have 6 total. So I want you to fill in all of those. So we have the beginning, but don't worry, there's more to come. So this is just a start. But what I need you to do is fill in your 3 tangles on each of these 6 tiles, and then we will return tomorrow for more tangling, and we are going to gradually be filling in all of these pre-string tiles. So we'll be kind of like chipping away at different strings and then coming back to different ones. It's going to be fun. I'm sure you all did an amazing job, and you can work on those, and feel free to go back and watch the video again as you're working through it if you like to have that sort of guidance. And for those of you that are working on your bigger piece like this, you're going to gradually fill these in. I just have 1 of each right now, but I'm going to slowly fill in 6 of the hollabah somewhere on my tile, and 6 of the braise somewhere on my tile, and then 6 of the tipple. And it's up to you if you want to do the same color shading on each one, or do you want to mix it up, or maybe you want to kind of meter them out in a particular way. All of that is an option. I'm kind of going to do mine a little bit kooky and crazy and see what happens. And then we'll be filling this in as we go along so that we have a finished one at the end as well. But this is what we got so far. So we had fun with some tipple, hollabah, and a little bit of braise. And we're kaleidoscoping our way through this project pack series. Thank you, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.